I want to focus your attention on the picture that's on the screen, which is actually a painting that's about 400 years old by Rembrandt, one of probably the world's best known painters, and it's called Christ in the Storm on the Sea of Galilee. It was painted in 1633, and it depicts Jesus calming the storm that we're going to hear about in the gospel today from the 4th chapter of Mark. So I'd like you to just sit with this painting and take in what you can of it for the next couple of minutes. It captures, I think, the fierceness of the storm in our gospel today, but it also captures the emotions of the disciples in the boat as it's tossed to and fro, and the disciples struggle to maintain control of their fishing boat. Only Jesus, who is shown on the far right, and I'm not even sure if we can find him in this particular picture, only Jesus remains calm in this picture. And that tells us everything we need to know about this gospel text. This was Rembrandt's earliest painting, his only seascape, and it was completed when he was between the ages of 27 and 29. It was displayed in an art museum in Boston, where it was stolen in 1990, along with 12 other paintings worth about $500 million. And these artworks, including this painting, have never been recovered. So here ends your art lesson for this morning, and I hope that sets the stage for our gospel lesson today. I'm not sure why, but I've been thinking a lot about bodies of water lately. It may be because for the last couple of weeks it's been so blasted hot, and the thought of sitting on the shore of a lake or the ocean with a good book and a cool drink seems very appealing to me right now. Even a swimming pool would do. Or I may be thinking about bodies of water because we recently hosted the U.S. Navy band out of Great Lakes, and we were surrounded by all sorts of sailors in their dress whites here in Earlville. Is that correct, Harry? Were they in their dress whites?
Actually, they call them dress blues.
Oh, okay.
But white.
Okay. They're just trying to confuse us, right? And I think, hearing the Navy anthem could really evoke a yen for the sea. I have to say that the talent and dedication of those young women and men were just outstanding and uplifting. And thanks again to Boomer Krolik and Terry and the others who helped us host this event in fine style. I've also been thinking back about 5 years ago when a good friend from my previous career working in universities invited me to join her for a few days of R&R at a beach house she was renting on the eastern shores of Lake Michigan near Benton Harbor. I had just finished my internship year of seminary and I was definitely ready for a break. It was great to spend some time relaxing, beachcombing, and sightseeing on the Michigan side of the lake while catching up with a dear friend. And I would have to say, though, I got a little bit of a taste of the power of these large bodies of water as we were walking through the waves when the tide was coming in and rolling out. And the undertow was pretty remarkable, I thought, for one of the Great Lakes. And today's gospel lesson, of course, also features a body of water, the Sea of Galilee in Jesus' home territory. So let's dive into that gospel lesson right now, figuratively speaking, of course. And here goes. When evening had come, Jesus said to the disciples, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion, and they woke him up and said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" There is so much in this story that we can pull out to ponder on this fifth Sunday of Pentecost. There's the powerful storm that suddenly came up, which almost scared the disciples right out of their sandals. We get a sense of the chaos and the evil of that storm that threatened the disciples' very existence. And we get a taste of God's power that is strong enough to still the waves and the wind. This is a divine power or theophany that Jesus shares with God, and it leads the disciples to think more deeply about who Jesus really is. We also learn that Jesus must have had great faith and nerves of steel to be able to sleep through that sort of natural disaster. How in the world did he do it? We also learn that when you're in a boat on the rough sea, no matter what the size of the boat, you feel infinitely small and completely out of control. It's especially frightening at night, which is when Mark's gospel places the story. The only thing you can do at that point, and perhaps Terry can verify this for us, is to ride it out through the rough weather and put your faith and trust in God, knowing that he is in command and not hindered in the least by the rough ride. Like the disciples, we are amazed, which really is the sense of awe permeates the entire Gospel of Mark. Well, the boat that Jesus and the disciples occupied was probably about 26 feet wide, and 26 feet long and 8 feet wide. It held between 12 and 15 people. We also learn that there were other boats around the one that Jesus and his friends were in. We learn that the windstorm was a sudden tornado-like whirlwind descending from above. And we learn that Jesus could still the storm with just a single word or two. Quiet. Be still. We also learn that the disciples were still pondering Jesus' identity on this trip across the sea from Judean territory to land occupied by Gentiles or foreigners on the other side of the lake. And while the disciples had seen Jesus in his teaching and healing roles, they had not yet seen him subdue nature. This was something new. As we move deeper into Mark in the coming weeks, we're going to see even more miracles, including healings, feeding crowds, and restoring life to 2 women who had died. Jesus' identity as God's Son will become more and more evident to us, as it did to the disciples. So 3 things become clear to us as we read this gospel story. First, Jesus' ability to control the sea and to subdue tempests. This was a sign of his divine power. Second, the image of the storm is really a metaphor for evil forces that are active in the world, and especially for the tribulations that just people suffer from and which only God can save them from. And third, the believer in Jesus should always trust in God, even in the midst of the most terrible storms, because God is our rock and our salvation. Now, Mark's first readers had experienced chaos and turmoil in their day when there was persecution and civil unrest in Rome, and then during the Jewish War of the years between 66, after the birth of Christ, to 73. This gospel passage would have spoken directly to their situation, and perhaps it would have given them strength and courage for what they faced in their own lives. And I find that there is much that we can apply from this story to our own lives in 2024, especially during what is shaping up to be a stormy election year and a time of 2 major world conflicts happening now in Ukraine and Gaza, in addition to whatever storms we face in our own lives. In the midst of our own uncertainty and turmoil, we must lean into our faith and grow it to become greater than our fears. And we do that through prayer, relying on Scripture, and worshiping with other Christians. Most of all, we can let Jesus be our pilot, our captain, our commander-in-chief. We can pray without ceasing, as we are told in Scripture.